Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimura from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Welcome to episode number 25 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. We got an incredible guest for our season 1 finale, Garrain Jones. Excited to have Garrain on the show. Garrain went from homeless to serial entrepreneur and has inspired millions of people around the world. Sit back and enjoy this amazing podcast. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. We have an extraordinary special guest today. I'm so honored to have on Garrain Jones. Garrain, say hi to everybody here, brother.
Hey, everybody. Garrain Jones here, calling in from Studio City, California.
That is awesome. Do you want to give a little rundown of who you are and what you're currently doing? And then we're going to just take it from there and let the conversation flow, brother.
Well, who I am represents, I could speak for 10 days in regards to who I am. If I really break it down, I'm possibility in motion. The extent of how I got here, I'd say going back 9 years, I was living in my car, a little bit over $200,000 in debt, just going through the harshness and blows of life, trying to figure out why I was still in the exact same spot over and over and over again, only to come to this awakening where it was 3/43 August and 2011, and I just had my moment of awakening, and I was just like, okay, I'm tired of like living inside this body. I don't want to be here, but I'm tired of fighting. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. Well, from that moment, there was something that woke up inside of me. And then a week later, I was at the gas station and I met a homeless guy and he asked me for money. I said, "You have more money than me." And he said, "Change your mindset, change your life." From that statement, everything that I never wanted to do in areas of my life where I wasn't happy, I learned how to do the opposite. That produced a different result. So I'm a culmination of from the last 9 years of the opposite of everything that I would normally do. So a guy that was living in his car is now living to breathe life into humanity. A guy who didn't have a relationship with his daughter now has a beautiful relationship with his daughter and is married. A guy who was $200,000 in debt is a multi-millionaire who's retired his mom and owns several properties and things like that. But I learned a lot of principles and philosophies along the way. So who I am is someone who stands for humanity to have all of their God-given talent so that they can use it and produce extraordinary results in their lives.
When that moment happened, how old were you?
32. I'm
32. How old are you now?
Old. I'm 40 years old. July 3rd, I'll be 41.
You look like a little baby, man. I thought you were a lot younger. Good
yeah, no. I have an 18-year-old daughter who just finished her first year of college.
That's awesome. I got a 14-year-old daughter. That is awesome. When did that spiral effect start happening in your life? Like when was there alcohol? Like was there drugs? Was there other stuff that pushed you into that direction? Or was it more your social surroundings? Like what got you in that? And at what age were you? I'm sure you didn't start off that way. Like did you go through high school? Did you go through?
Well, growing up, and you could only understand if you were in my shoes, but growing up as a Black man in America, the system isn't designed equally for everybody because the treatment is very different. And I knew when I was 5 years old that people got treated different because I used to tell my mom, I wish I was this color, or I wish I was this kind of person. She would ask why. And I would literally say, because they get treated better than I do. And it was a clear difference. So it was almost as when I connect the dots looking backwards, as if the system wasn't designed for equal opportunity. So I've always been taught to work 10 times harder than everyone else around me. And then 10 times harder than that. So from when I was a little kid, life was difficult. It was difficult for my family. It was difficult for my grandparents. It was just difficult just because of how the system's designed anyways.
Yeah.
So that on top of, I was also a troublemaker, and I also didn't know discipline. My family didn't know discipline and all these different things. So, you get a child and it's domesticated. When a child is domesticated in that environment, they'll carry out that pattern their entire lives, because adults are pretty much deteriorated children unless you become aware of how you can take possession of your own mind, which I didn't learn until I was 32. So it was destined to happen anyways. When I started being aware was at the age of 30. So I wasn't even aware of why. I was just like, well, this is just how life is. But when I was 30 is when I started reading books and started seeing clips on YouTube. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm not supposed to live this life. I started asking myself different questions. So when I got to 32, that's when I got into health and wellness. When I got into health and wellness, how you feel, that affects how you feel, and how you feel determines how you think. How you think determines how you speak. How you speak determines your actions, and your actions determine the outcome. So when I changed the culmination of how I felt, I started thinking differently, and I was like, whoa, like it was like I was in a cloud my whole life.
Yeah, I started seeing a lot more clear.
Yeah, so just having that clarity, I was just even seeing myself different and loving myself different. And from that difference, I just started some different kind of people who were doing the same that I was doing, which was health and wellness, personal transformation, writing goals. So when you're in an environment like that, it amplifies your results. So I didn't even know what was happening, but just by being in the environment, I was doing what everybody else was doing around me, which whatever was happening was producing a different result than the environment that I grew up around anyways, because the environment will cultivate the result. Kind of like being in a different country. If you take I'll just say any kind of, you take a Chinese person and then you immediately ship them to America and groom them up around Americans, it will have no correlation of the environment that it was around, but it will have a correlation to the environment that it was that the person was domesticated in.
Yeah.
So I was taken out of my original domestication and then put in this new domestication, which was success consciousness, wealth consciousness, health consciousness, which is one that I didn't know, but it's like a form of language. If you want to learn
100%.
a language, you want to learn a new language, you've got to immerse yourself in the culture if you want to learn it faster.
Yes, 100%.
So this is exactly what happened with me. It was by change of environment and staying in that environment, I did what everyone else around me was doing.
So with the health and fitness aspect, was that part of your journey? Did it turn into part of your career, or is it something you just doing for yourself? How does that work with health and fitness?
So I was doing it for myself. What I didn't know, because remember, during that time, I was saying, I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. That was nowhere near a part of what I wanted to do. But I was unhealthy. I was 40 pounds overweight. My mom's 5'5". She was 225 pounds. My brother was 350 pounds. So everybody in my family, we weren't healthy. I'm from the South. So all we ate was freaking fatty fried ice cream, bacon double cheeseburger with no consciousness of it. And you can't change what you're not aware of.
Yeah.
So me saying, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy. And then all of a sudden, something with health and wellness, maybe 2 weeks later, comes into my life. I didn't know I called that into my life. So it was more for me. What I didn't know is how people were going to respond to me, because I was responding to myself different. And people started to change as I started to change. And people started saying, well, I want what you have. I want what you have. And when you got hundreds of people, when you're not, I didn't have the fan base or the following base or the, nobody was following me really like that back then. So when all of a sudden hundreds of people are saying, I want to do what you're doing. I want this. I want this. I want this too. And I was like, maybe this is something. So my advisor said, well, give them what you have. That's a business opportunity. So I turned it into a business by having guidance. And once I had guidance, I've never been a lazy person. I just never knew where to put all this energy. So once that door was open, and I didn't have to sell nutrition and health. They needed it. They just needed to know who to get it from. So once I put all my energy into health and well-being, I became a light in a world of darkness, because our world is not healthy, mind, body, and spirit in a whole.
Yeah, 100%.
So when you become that light, people know which direction to look into. So that's how it turned into a business. It followed me. I didn't follow it. It was just, I was doing it for me. And then all of a sudden, all these people started coming into me. That's how it turned into a business, because it literally willed itself into my life.
Is this something you're currently still doing, or is this something you've pushed away from now?
No. Absolutely 100%, because I understand the full length of transformation cannot be transformed unless you understand health and well-being. I see people who overcompensate in certain areas and they make all this money, but they're extremely unhealthy. So what really happening is I'm overcompensating to hide from myself.
Yeah.
And I teach whole life success. You can't have whole life success if you're not healthy, because you can only reach a certain level of happiness, but then you got to have yourself as a part of that happiness, as a part of that fulfillment. So it's a part of my entire, when I speak about transformation, I cannot leave out the very nature of something that brought me back to myself. And losing myself, I found myself. And health is a major part of that.
You do motivational speaking, you do inspirational speaking, all that. How was your first moment stepping on stage? This is all, obviously, it was all new to you. How did you feel? I always like diving into people's mindsets. This is obviously, public speaking is one of the biggest fears for people. How did you overcome that? How was your mindset with that?
The funny thing is it's so crazy how this all happened. So when I was in high school, I was in special education, and I could not read, and I used to polyglot bit. And I had a learning disability. So what would normally take you 3 days to learn would take me 6 months to learn. So it was a slower process. So the fact that I'm a very eloquent speaker that can speak on anything 1,000 different times, speak on stage, 50,000 people, what I had to go through just to get to that point was 10,000 hours of practice, but that practice didn't happen on a stage. It happened on YouTube. So I had 125 videos on YouTube while I was homeless on the subject of personal development. 125 videos, because I saw the need for people, even though I didn't have the life result. I just kept doing it. I felt called to do it over and over and over and over and over. You do anything for 10,000 hours, you will master it.
Oh, 100%.
So when I got on stage, it already felt familiar to me, because the thing about it was the fear of getting on stage isn't the fact of public speaking. It's the fact of, will I be disproved by somebody? I went through all of that from my YouTubes and the comments and the Q&As. I had already had so much training in connecting with humans. When I got on stage, this was just another level, but I already knew how to connect with humans. So the very first time I got on stage, it was business as usual, because I had already went through all of that.
So let's jump back to that. You're recording videos when you're still homeless or quote unquote homeless. How did that all work? Like when did that moment when I watched your video when you're at the variety store and you and another gentleman asked you for money and you had that epiphany moment, were you recording these videos prior to that, or is this after?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you were, huh?
I was recording videos long before that. The thing about it is they were all connected to my old email, which was rich broke. So I was like manifesting being rich in thought and broke in pocket. So when I got rid of that email, it also, what I didn't know, was connected to all of my videos. So and I was like, you know what, delete. And it deleted all of my past videos. But there was just something, even when I was doing music and all these different things, I had more personal development videos than I did music. So I didn't know that was a calling of mine. I was just operating on what I felt like sharing. And a lot of times it wasn't through music, it was through connecting with people, and the messages that I would get. It's like, thank you for saying that. Thank you for sharing that. Like, I put the gun down when you shared that story. I didn't drive my car off a bridge when you shared your testimony. And I would say, I live in my car right now. I'm in an abandoned building right now. I live in a storage unit, I'm living in my storage unit right now. I had a series called The Storage, and no one knew I was living in my storage unit.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, bro.
You got a crazy story, brother. With your music, let's dive into that. It's something obviously I don't know about you. When did that all start? Is this something you grew up in? Is you from your family? Like, how did music become part of your life? And is it still part of your life?
So yeah, part of my life, the music industry. So my mother, she's a jazz DJ. My dad could play 10 different instruments fluently. So music was always around me. However, my mother was a big fan of shut up in the house. So every time I would sing, she would say, shut up. So I didn't even know I could sing until I graduated from high school. And then when I graduated from high school and went to California, I went to karaoke and I sang a song. And this lady came up to me in tears. She said, promise me you'll never stop singing. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that I could make a difference in somebody's life like that. So I just kept doing it. And I just kept doing it. And then I learned how to craft and write songs. And I kept doing it. I eventually got a record deal with DTP Def Jam through Ludacris. And I used to go by my middle name, which is Stefan. So my artist name was Steph Jones. And I did songs with 2 Chainz, with freaking Chingy, I wrote songs for Jordan Sparks, Chris Brown. Like, I was doing all of that. And at that time I was doing that, I didn't have a place to live. So I was living in my car during that time because no money was coming in yet. So it was like, and royalties take a long time to actually come in. And then I was just writing and I was like, man, I have no money coming in. And so I didn't leave music until somebody, I won't put his name out there, I was in the studio with. I came up with the melody. I came up with the hook. Their publishing company said that they deleted that and scrapped the song, but then the song came out and it was the exact same song that I wrote, and it went #1 and it won a Grammy while I was living in my car. So I was like, you know what? If this is what music is like, I don't want anything to do with it. So I left the music industry and I was like, F the music industry and everyone in it. What I should not have done is said everyone in it because I had some really good friends. So I left for literally 9 years. I completely left. That's why I left the music industry. But then I fell super on hard times. And I say, you know what? God bless me with more than just this. I know I'm not put here to pay bills and die. I know that there's more to life. So I started, what else can I do? What else am I good at? What do I love to do? I loved helping people. I love supporting people. I love working out with people. I love health and fitness, even though I wasn't healthy, because my version of health and fitness was freaking drinking a protein shake and that's it. So, but that was only what I was aware of. But then I just started to go into that more. And now my new song just sounds different and it comes up different. and it shows up different, and I'm okay with that. But I still sing every day.
I was say, would this be something in the near future you would ever dive
Absolutely.
back into? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
amazing. The music industry is not a friendly industry, is it?
No, just look at your favorite singer. Look at them when they come in, and just look at their eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul. Look at their eyes 5 years later. So there's something else going on that is not in alignment with elevating the human spirit. But nowadays, artists have taken it into their own hands because of streaming and all of that.
Yeah, 100%.
I wasn't around back then. Yeah. And so I'm working my way into that. But, I just put out a best-selling book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life, put that out in Spanish because the demand was so great. But now I'm getting ready to do the audiobook, and then I'm going to do a CD of just a mixtape of just personal development. And after that project, I'm going to do a music project.
That's awesome. Let's dive into your book.
Okay.
When did you start it? Was this something it took a while to process, or is this something where you just dove into it and let's get this done? Did you have a ghostwriter? Did you do it on your own? How did it all come about?
I could write a book on the process I took of writing a book because I tried everything.
Yeah.
So it started about 5 years ago. I never originally planned on writing a book, but I remember praying one day. I was like, God, just send me a sign, send me a sign. And all of a sudden, these people start saying, you should write a book. And you get 1,000 people who don't know each other say, I love your story. You should write a book. I love this. You should write a book. I love this topic. You should write a book. And I'm like, well, maybe that's what I prayed for. And I just haven't been postured enough to actually see it.
Yeah.
Well, I started to entertain that. The thing about it is I was trying to be the author and write the perfect book. Well, I was trying to be somebody else. And when you're trying to be somebody else, you actually leave yourself. So I was just like, I don't know why. It's not, when something is in nature, it always flows. When it's out of nature, you hit all kind of roadblocks. Yeah. So I hit all kind of roadblocks because I was too busy trying to be somebody else. This is the exact same pattern that happened in music. Trying to write these songs and be themselves, and I was being someone else so much that I left me. So in this process, I hired a ghostwriter. The whole project was done within the first 6 months. Yeah. When I read it, I was like, nah. I can't in my consciousness put out something that doesn't sound like me. It doesn't feel like me. Because what do people know me for? Raw, real, unedited, straight in your face. And you just get that. I was like, this does not sound anything like me. So $15,000 down the drain. But it really wasn't down the drain because I got to see what I would not want to do.
The process.
Yeah. Then I went to getting a developmental writer, and it was like, nah. Then I got a developmental editor, and I just like, man, no. And then I said, what would it look like? What's missing? My wife has this term. She says, if something isn't flowing, always ask yourself, what's missing? What's in the gap? What's missing? What's in the gap? Then it can when you ask that question, you can posture yourself differently.
Yeah, 100%.
What's missing? What's missing? What's missing? The biggest component to my life is the spiritual aspect. Because I have friends, all different denominations, all different genders and pronouns and ages and backgrounds, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Muslim, Christian, Jews, all of them. Because I'm always coming from the accent of love, not the segregation part.
Yeah.
Always, and that's why I'm received in that way. But I was trying to write a book to please all of them. The thing about it was, who I left out was myself again. And I was like, wait a second. The biggest element that supported me was my call, was my prayers, was my conversations with God. And none of that is in the book because I didn't want to offend anybody about my life. So when I said, no, this is my life, my journey, these are the lessons, and those who lock on it, they'll lock on it, whatever or not. So when I came from that lens, it took me 2 weeks to write.
2 weeks, huh?
5 years out of alignment when I was being myself and truly honoring what was already inside of me, the way it is, raw and real, my story. Even though I'm a follower of Christ, which I stated in the book, but I said my message is for all of humanity. Muslim people bought it. My Jewish friends bought it. Christian friends bought it. Black, white, everybody still bought it because it was more about the message and not the titles.
When was your book released?
February 17th of this year, 7 days. It was on Amazon, #1 in 3 different categories.
I'm going to dive into something I saw. Your cover art. Who did your cover art? And where was that inspired? It's got one of the most amazing. Oh, you're going to show it right there? I was going to ask if you had it right there. Look at that. That is amazing.
So from left to right. So there's a guy named Art Nair. He's an Indian guy. He was in Germany at the time. He used to do my covers when I was doing mixtapes and music. And I was like, man, he just always understands my vision when I say these outlandish things. Whatever he does, but it always worked well together. And so I decided to reach out to him. But during that time, he's big now. He's done stuff for Apple, and he's like a world-renowned artist. You look up ARCHNAIR on Instagram, you'll see his work. It's crazy. And I told him we were going through a bunch of stuff, and I was like, you know what? What I want, I know, just follow me here. I know it may sound crazy. What I want is I want the kind of cover where I don't even have to explain what it is. They just know it on contact. And I was like, I was dead before. I was like a machine. There was no life in me. I changed my life and gave birth. I resurrected into a new life, new growth. And, it's like change your mindset, change your life. And then he sent me a small little edit of this, but this was on the other side. And I was like, bro, but it was like black and white. It's like, bro, that's it. But put the skeleton, the machine skeleton on the left side, and because evolution goes from left to right.
Right, yeah.
And so when he sent that, and I was like, that's it. Oh my God, that's it. Because whenever it's like you hit the spiritual lottery. And so I was like, that's it. I was like, it's so beautiful. I don't even want a title on the front. And everybody thought I was crazy. But guess what? I'm a fan of art.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I wanted the art to breathe. And I took this to 20 people who didn't know me. And I said, when you see this cover, what does it make you think of? They were like, it's like dead to alive or some change. And they were literally it's like a little kid putting together a puzzle. Yeah. Change your life and changing life. I don't know. It makes me sad. And then it makes me happy. And I said, you are the reason. You are confirmation of what I feel in my soul. So thank you. And that is how the cover came about.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
This one is on the back, and that's a door. That's the door to more. And it says, what if there was a completely different life on the other side of everything that you think you know? But if you change your mindset, you're exposed. You can't change without awareness. But when you're exposed to more, if you knew better, you do better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Let's dive into your family life now. How long have you been married now for?
So I've been married for...
I put you on the spot here, buddy.
No. No, it's close to a year.
Oh, so you're newlywed still almost.
Yeah, we're still a newlywed.
There you go. Your daughter, so you said you're 40 now. Your daughter you had your daughter at 22? Have you got that right?
18. Yeah.
She's 18, so you had her at 22. So you're quite young.
Yeah.
How many years was there that separation where you feel like you weren't around as much as you could have? And when did you get back into her life? Was it in your 30s?
It was definitely in my 30s. So you can't give what you don't have.
100%.
And I never had love for myself. And I didn't even know that I didn't have love for myself. So I was trying to give love from the empty tank that I didn't even realize, because I wasn't raised in a way where my mother was affectionate. I never really heard "I love you" until I graduated high school. So based off of that domestication, those were the only tools I know. And they don't give parents a blueprint on how to raise kids. They just do the best they can with what they know. So with what I knew, that was my best, even though it didn't appear to be my best according to the outside. But for me, that was my best until I knew better, until I learned, until I researched. And so it wasn't until 3 years ago, when I was 38, all the time I was trying to make up for the past.
Yeah.
You can't make up for the past.
No, never.
And I tried.
Always. That's one thing I say at the end of every single podcast. You always move forward. I say that at the end of every podcast. You don't ever make up to the past. You move forward and you start a new path. Every day is a new path, a new day. And the sun comes up and let's start today a fresh day, kind of thing.
Yeah. So and when you come to a conversation trying to make up for the past, you often come with shame and guilt. So I was looking through the eyes of shame and guilt, but your energy will show up before your physical presence does. So when I would come up, my conversation would be looking through the eyes of shame and guilt, which sounded very weak when my daughter needed someone who, when you speak to women, they all say the same thing. What are you looking for? You want to feel safe. They want to feel heard, acknowledged, and they want to feel like they matter. Boom. You meet those 4 components, you will have the essence of that woman, because of the way most women were domesticated. So most men are domesticated tough and things like that. So they don't a lot of times they don't show an emotional side. But in order to truly hear someone, you have to be in a submissive state without any walls of pride or ego and up. And that's a feminine, because there's masculine and feminine inside of every pronoun. So when your masculine is there and someone is trying to express something to you and your masculine is up, you can't hear through the masculine ears, because hearing and submissive is a feminine quality. And when you're domesticated in the masculine, that's a form of language. So it's like speaking Spanish, which is a language you've never learned before. So that is what I brought to my daughter's relationship, and I didn't even understand why. And again, you can't change what you're not aware of, but it wasn't until I started studying women and studying people that were in thriving relationships and studying fathers that had thriving relationships with their daughters. And I was just like, I see what happened. I've been looking at all women through my dad's eyes, and my dad never respected women. My dad treated women, like shit. And in that moment, I decided who I was going to be. I'm not going to be the person who tries to make up for 15 years. Who am I going to decide to be now moving forward? So I went from weak, insecure, not confident, full of shame dad, which when she had a boyfriend, he was just like that, because that was her only representation of the man in her life, to I'm the most powerful representation of who she will marry one day.
That's beautiful.
And when I shifted into that person, my actions was different. My energy was different. How I spoke to her, I could say the same words, but my come from was the most powerful representation of who she will marry one day. It just had me to appear to be different. That was the difference. And that's who she trusted. And she wouldn't accept anything. She wouldn't accept a lesser version. When I came into it with that and showed her a different character for long enough, she got rid of her old boyfriend. And then she got a new boyfriend that was just like my personality then. And then I shifted again. And then I shifted again. And now we have a relationship like this. And she says she loves me. We acknowledge the past. and we get to move forward and all these different things. Now I don't look at women through my dad's eyes. I look at all women through my daughter's eyes.
I love that. I love that.
And that's only then is when I attracted my now wife.
Yeah.
Because I was open. That's, if the soil isn't ready, if it's not ready for growth,
It's not
gonna grow.
No.
My daughter, the way she trained me inadvertently, soiled my heart for when a seed is planted, something will grow. And so that was that next layer of love, which attracted the woman the woman in my life that's now my wife.
Yeah, that's amazing. I always throw two questions at everyone. The first one, if you were to pass away today, your closest friends, your closest loved ones, in a few words, how would you want to be described?
If I were to pass away today, how would I want
to be described by your loved ones or remembered?
Garrain's life will live forever because the message he left with me, I will carry to everyone I come in contact with.
Now, the next one, superpower. If you had one superpower, what would it be and why?
I already have it. I wanted to be a superhero when I was a little kid. My superhero power is to be able to love no matter what.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. That's a new one. I love it. I love it.
To be able to love no matter what. Even the two men who murdered my father, I learned how to love them because you forgive them for they know not what they do. I truly learned how to love them and forgive them and to wish the best for their family. And it hadn't always been like that. And my superhero power is to be removed from resentment and be quick to forgive, which is a very, very difficult thing because people harbor resentment.
100%.
And have no idea what it's doing to their life.
Do you mind me diving into that? How old were you when your father was murdered?
12 years old.
Oh, so you're a baby still, huh?
Yeah, he was a drug dealer. I found out there was two men who broke into his house. It had to do with drugs. And for my whole life, I wished death upon them.
So they were incarcerated. They were both caught, I'm assuming.
Oh, no. Nothing ever happened.
Oh, nothing, huh?
Well, he lived in a part of the neighborhood where things like that happen every day. And the cops didn't really do anything about that in those kind of neighborhoods. It was in third ward in Houston. It's being, it's gentrified now, but like back then, that's where you see the poorest of the poor, ghetto, all kind of stuff. But it was a controlled environment anyways. So I carried resentment for a very long time. And this is something really big that a lot of people will get a lot of value from, because it wasn't until present date. I'd say when I was 35, I was in a business. There was somebody that was in the same business. We were both athletes. I didn't like him. He didn't like me. And how I felt about him is how I felt about his whole entire all the people in his business, and I didn't even know it. And then one day, this was before I was getting a lot of likes and comments and things, and it felt like there was this, no matter how hard we work, our business, it was almost like there was another entity that was just keeping us where we were. And I remember we were going on a retreat, all of us. And I said, you know what? And I remember posting something on Facebook and tagging 50 people, and only 10 people liked it. And then I went and I looked in the mirror. I said, you know what? Him being a friend to me has nothing to do with me being a friend to him. So I'm just going to love him no matter what. No one else has the power to change who I know myself to truly be. And when I became and saw myself different as the truest essence of who I am, we're all born into love. So when I returned back to my natural state and just functioned on love, when I got back from that retreat, I posted the exact same thing and I didn't tag anybody. and there was 475 likes. This was in a 2-day time span. Usually you build trust over that time. So clearly something happened. I spoke to my spiritual advisor. She said, Garrain, you removed hate from your heart. The hot air balloon can't leave the ground unless you release the weight. That's resentment. So when I did that, within 3 months, everything in my life that had to do with monetary, with business, anything, it all tripled. And it matched the level of who I was being. When I saw that, I made a list of 250 names of people from my past, of things that I did something to, or things that they did to me. And if I held resentment, I apologized to every single one of them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Most people won't do that because it's too difficult.
No. That is, they'll circumvent it inside them, or they'll just stuff it in and let it go, kind of thing, and move on, but not realize it's always there. It's not going away.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing little podcast. I greatly appreciate your time. This is something where I'd love to have you on maybe in a few months again and hear where your journey takes you. How I'm going to do is at the end of the show notes, we're going to put all the contact information, where to purchase his book, where to get a hold of everyone here, and social media links and all that. Once again, I greatly appreciate you coming on. This has been your energy, is infectious. Your spirit is infectious. Your love is infectious. Everything about you is just, it's amazing to get to know you, buddy.
Thank you so much. And I acknowledge you for creating the space for stories like mine to be heard, because most people there's a lot of people with these stories, but they don't feel safe to share them because they don't know how valuable it is. Yeah. So your platform taps into the voice of the voiceless. So thank you so much for what you do.
That is awesome, brother. Thank you. I want to thank our guest, Garrain Jones, for taking time out of a busy schedule. This guy is an absolute joy to have on our show. I can't wait to have him back. If you guys enjoy this podcast, please tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word. Like all weeks, we're trying to build something special here. Hit the subscribe button, leave a review. Until next week, always move forward.